Good morning, everybody. My name is Darren Bowden. I'm the CEO of Metals Exploration. We're a gold producing company. We have operations in both the Philippines and Nicaragua. Our Philippines operations are currently producing between 70 and 80,000 ounces of gold a year. Last year we did $96 million of free cash. This year we're heading to better that. And in Nicaragua we're currently constructing and building a new gold mine, which will be operating Q4 2026 .
Darren, good to have you on our sunny shores. Thanks for bringing the weather with you. We like that.
It's a beautiful weather.
It's beautiful weather. Really good to see you face to face. We've had a lot of conversations online talking about, obviously what's going on in the Philippines as you kind of sort of run that down, but the cash it's throwing off, and I think excitingly what's going on in Nicaragua and maybe some of the opportunities there. So, if you don't mind, let's deal with the assets first, and then we'll kind of get into strategy and the plan for the company. So, update on Philippines at Runruno. Where are we at?
Yeah, so Runruno's right now, the design was set to do 91% recovery every year. We're currently achieving that. It's taken us 5 years to get there. But as we've ramped up production and efficiency, the ore body itself is ramping down. So by the end of 2026, the ore body will be finished, and we'll be looking for further opportunities within the country. Now, we've got some targets within 20 kilometres of Runruno. So the cash that's being generated there in the initial phase is now going into Nicaragua. So we purchased Condor Gold mid-January this year, and since then we've ramped up, at the speed of light. We bought a second-hand plant. The engineering's 50% complete. We've already started bulk earthworks in Nicaragua. They'll be finalised in August. The construction of the camps have already started. The batch plant for pouring most of the concrete is on site. We've got transmission lines moving in. Everything is moving very quickly there for construction to finish in Q4 2026 to start gold production 2026.
Remind people very quick before you carry on, the last economic study there run by Condor said the production levels will be what?
So Condor was targeting about an 800 to 880,000 tonne a year plant, doing about 80,000 ounces a year. Now, the reason they were doing that is they had to put out a BFS because they needed financing from banks. Yeah. We don't need financing from banks. We are using all of our own internal cash and internal studies to build the most efficient and optimised mine. So they could only run a single pit, whereas there was actually 3 pits and an underground. None of those were included in Condor's BFS. They were included 10 years ago in a PEA. They are included in our internal studies, they're included in our design, and right now at 2,500 gold, so gold price, 2,500, we're doing about 880 million NPV on a 1.4 million tonne a year plant, generating about 140,000 ounces a year.
Right. Gold's not at 2.5, is it?
I know, so you know what the real number looks like.
Just help people do some math. Okay, so that's fine. Let's finish. Let's go back to the Philippines. Just finish that off, right? So, okay, obviously, end of 2026, Runruno is exhausted. You're looking at regional opportunities because I guess it solves a couple of problems. Is like one, maybe we can continue to utilise the infrastructure, and two, perhaps we kind of put out the kind of remediation component of closing down a mine. So again, talk to both of those.
Look, I'll start with the remediation component. That's like right now we're at 95% complete on that. So there's about a $4 to $5 million spend at the back of mine life. So not much at all. Yep. However, with that said, the benefit of putting that out is the employment story is 1,200 people who work at that mine, keeping their lives and things moving forward, looking at how that business we can have 2 operating businesses so that we can chase the tier 1 assets we've got in our portfolio, and we can look to finance and fund those ourselves. We have a near mine deposit, it's about 20 kilometres away. The difference is it's actually a VMS. And if you go onto the website, you'll see that there's a new presentation that's just gone on the website that shows some of the numbers. It was actually, and this is how we found it, it was actually an old mine, and it was an old zinc mine. Okay. It was DSO zinc ore, so 40+% zinc ore DSO to port. Yeah. We've now looked at the wider, so that was on all the high-grade veins. We've looked at the wider alteration. The alteration is between 100 to 200 metres wide. It's at surface. What we can see already runs for over a kilometre. And when you do the numbers, The copper in the veins is running 3 to 5%. The gold in the veins is running 2 to 3 grams. So you've got zinc, gold, and copper. Now, the disseminated ore body, is it those grades? Probably not, but it should carry grade across that whole operation. We're drill ready. We're going to start drilling that target in July, and we should have economics understood by the end of this year.
So you own that currently?
We own that currently.
No other monies or any encumbrances or liens or anything?
Nothing.
It's free and clear?
We're debt-free. We've got all the money we need to do Nicaragua and some. We've got money for the exploration there, and we've got money for further exploration in Nicaragua as well.
Okay.
We're trying to be very flexible around our plans.
Yeah.
Look, that doesn't work out, we pivot. We've all got, right now in our portfolio, we've got larger assets that are 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
We've got other targets that are 3 to 5 years. We have enough within the current portfolio and the ground that we're looking at with the governments to pick up on top of that, to be able to grow this business and to be flexible enough so if something fails, we can move to something else.
Okay, and again, I'm determined to stick with Philippines until we've exhausted that. Okay, so you kind of DSO that project 20 kilometers away. Are there genuinely other opportunities which you are advanced discussions on, not just a desktop exercise?
We have some in our portfolio. We've got some outside we can't talk about. The ones in our portfolio are, they're my favourite assets, quite frankly. They come with a small company, YMC, that we purchased September last year.
Yep.
There is 3 key targets in there. One is probably one of the biggest copper footprints I've ever seen. It's 2.5 kilometres long by 1.5 kilometres wide. It's a porphyry at surface.
Wow.
The core of the ore body looks like it's about 1.5 by 1 kilometre, and the geochem alone went 3,000 ppm, so 0.3% in geochem. The rock chips up every creek are all porphyry, and they're all up to 3.5% porphyry copper.
What do you do with something like that? Obviously, people go, imagine they're porphyry, and people go, oh, you need a big balance sheet and so forth. But you've got cash still flowing.
Exactly.
And coming back to your point about you've got choice as to where you allocate your capital. I mean, that sounds super exciting.
It's crazy exciting. We'll be able to, hopefully we're targeting to be able to drill. So we're working with communities at the moment. We've got the leases are ours, but we've got to get community agreement to start the work.
Right.
It's at surface. Drilling costs are nothing. You're drilling 300, 400 metre deep holes to be able to define a billion-tonne ore body. So, but for me, that's a 5 to 10 year plan. How do we get to that 5 to 10 years?
But to production, you're talking about?
To production.
Right, okay.
So I'm talking end of next year, we should have a resource statement.
Gotcha.
But production, 5 to 10 years. How do we get there? What we do is we repurpose the existing plant in Runruno. We take the VMS ore to Runruno, we produce concentrates. We have a 2-mine scenario doing over $1 billion worth of revenue a year from 2028. We will have the cash and the finance, or the ability to finance those larger projects.
Right.
That is our target. By 2028, we want to be in that position.
I know you're producers, but with something like that, when you talk about that kind of porphyry, would you ever JV if the scale is there?
100%
That makes
opportunity.
sense for you.
100% opportunity to do so, and I think maintaining a flexible mindset around that decision is what you should do.
Okay.
We are currently looking at other major porphyries within the country, which we don't want to spend money on. We are looking at major partners to JV that. Now, why are they talking to us, small company? We have the intellectual property in the country to make it work. They do not.
That's the hard bit.
That is
Philippines.
in
We've tried in the
all cases.
past. It is hard.
You've got to have the relationships, you've got to have the people, you've got to have the technical knowledge. If you've got that in country, you're the belle of the ball, and that's who we are. We're at the forefront of the mining industry in the Philippines, and we're at the forefront of the mining industry in Nicaragua. We have been able to do both of those things in both countries. Nicaragua, we're just growing into that. Philippines, we're a mature, well-recognised, well-branded company, and that gives us the opportunity to do those JVs with major partners. That makes our balance sheet look better, but we get into major assets for very little.
Well, let's go to Nicaragua, right? And I know we've talked about this before, but it's worth explaining to people because people hear the word Nicaragua and they go, oh my goodness, years, trauma, all sorts of things that come to mind. But you weren't operating there before. Obviously, Condor were and having varying degrees of success at some difficult moments politically, I guess, for them, and with the market doing what they're doing as well. So it was tough for them in terms of access to capital, even if they knew what to do. how have you been able to kind of step in there? It takes more than just money.
It does. It takes the right team. So, I'm 17 years in South America. I'd been to Nicaragua before. I'd met the people in Nicaragua before. My whole team that I used to work with in Colombia and the Dominican Republic, they all followed me into Nicaragua. They're Spanish speaking, they're mining executives. The team in country, there was a very, very good country manager there. Yeah. We've been able to put that team together, and in the same way we built those relationships in the Philippines. We're doing the same in Nicaragua. We're building relationships from every level, from community right the way through to top of government. Mm-hmm. We had to get over a credibility issue that we were left with. Why? Because 12 years doing nothing, previous management, committing to the government they're going to do something, not achieving it, didn't have the money. Again, maybe was with all the best intentions, but that left us with that credibility issue. Us hitting the ground running, buying a new plant, starting operations, putting in 4 major contracts within the first 4 months, and having those contracts start to be executed and being paid. We've got the 4 biggest companies in the country on our side. Yeah. Talking to the government as well. We had a groundbreaking ceremony. It went federal news. The government sees we're doing what we say we're going to do. So they've come to the table to talk to us. They are looking for a partner who can grow the gold story and the mining story within that country. Actually, quite frankly, while the Philippines, the bureaucracy is tough and takes a long time, when they finally execute a contract, they'll perform on it. Nicaragua, they don't take time. The layers of government to make these decisions is very small. So if they want you to be their partner and they want you to do something there, they will approve it very quickly and move very quickly to do it. So from an operating point of view, it's actually quite simple, and it's a lot more simple in Nicaragua to operate than the Philippines. Look, every developing country has political risk, don't get me wrong, but it's how you operate in those countries and how you respect their cultures and the people is how you move forward. Look, we've got Nicaragua, 2018, there was majors in Nicaragua. You had Newcrest, you had a few others. They held exciting ground. Well, for the last 4 months, we haven't just been building a mine. We've been doing historical searches over all of that and extensions to our own tenements. There's some very, very nice ground. That was actually Newcrest. And Newcrest was probably one of the best gold explorers in the world. I can't talk too much about it, but if that ground comes over to us, the historical data will show you what I'm talking about. It is exciting.
It is exciting. And I'll say that again, it's not just about the money, because Newcrest will have had money to do what they wanted, and the other majors will have had money to do what they want to do. And maybe a little bit of this is timing, right? Yeah. Perfect. And, from when we first started talking, gold was like below $2,000, and we're at 3.5-ish at the moment. That's allowed you to build up a pile of money, so it is important, but the way you go about allocating that is also critically important. Talk to me about this growth component you just mentioned. Okay, the Newcrest of this world have done a lot of work, and maybe you can be the beneficiary of that. How much time and effort do you put on that now? Because the important thing for you to do is, because Runruno is running out at the end of next year, you've got to kind of move the former Condor project forward into production as quickly as possible, and you're going to have a line of sight into the future of maybe with growth components. So how are you organising the team around operations versus explorations versus M&A?
It's very good. So again, we don't do a lot of M&A. This type of stuff I'm talking about is us working with the government and them issuing us licenses. Right. It costs us nothing.
Fantastic.
It costs us a relationship, which we want to build and need to build anyway. So that's a good thing. I have grown my exploration team. There's a VP exploration who hopefully you'll meet in the future. He he was the director and CEO of a small company that was doing work in Chile. They're listed on the ASX. He's come back to us and he's the head of exploration. We have 2 exploration teams in both countries. And the good thing about operating in these countries, the human resource is actually quite talented, but not as expensive as you see in other countries, as you can imagine. Yeah. So it's not driven by cost.
What is it? This really fascinates me, because I ask people about this, like the cost of the all-in per meter cost in Nevada versus BC versus West Africa. Yeah. What was it like in Nicaragua?
So if you're looking at just a general labourer, it's around about the same as what the Philippines is. Yeah. 200, 250 US a month.
A month, right? Okay, so you got that. So what does that do to the per meter cost when you're drilling and exploring?
So yeah, it brings it right down. You use a lot of time. You use an international rig. They bring in a supervisor. They train up the local contingent. We can drill cord hole in Nicaragua for about $100 a meter. We can drill RC in Nicaragua for about 30. So I can spend $2 million.
Is that just the drill, or does that include the assay all in?
So you've got to add the assay on top of that. But we're building our own assay lab.
Okay.
So the assays are going to be cheaper as well. So that assay lab should be ready by August, September. The Rock Creek plant come with the most beautiful assay lab you've ever seen. We're bringing it all down. Yeah. So so we can probably do all in. We probably do it for $150 for a cord hole. That's cut, assay, done. Amazing. It's cheap.
It's about a third of what we're hearing in Canada.
Oh yeah, right? For sure.
It's about a quarter of what it's costing in the US. Yeah. It's
crazy.
Helpful because the price of gold doesn't change.
Well, and if you're at surface with your deposits, your drill depth is not killing you either. You're not drilling 1,000 meters to find something.
You're not chasing it down.
No, and one of these things we're talking about, it's a hill. We're actually drilling a hill. It starts, so no, it's very nice. Okay. And quite frankly, the growth story doesn't have to just be focused on the Philippines. We're at the forefront of the mining industry in both of those countries. We don't need to go anywhere else to have the best assets in any portfolio you'll see in the world on our doorstep. We just need to work with people, work with the governments, and do what we do.
Are you training people up right now? Have you started? When do you start that process?
So we already have. Yeah.
Right.
We already
What's
have.
that look like?
So drilling, you're looking about 6 to 12 weeks to bring people up to full speed.
Yeah.
We've already trained in the Philippines. We've already trained them up in our new territory. So we've got a drill crew. We're drill ready up that way. We've got a drill sitting there waiting for that to start. In Nicaragua, there's a local drill company who have already trained their people, and we've got a drill turning up at the end of August as well. We'll start training for that drill as soon as that arrives.
And you own these drills?
So no, one we're bringing in, and we're bringing the contractor to run it, someone we trust, and the other is a local contractor with an international tie as well. So they've already started drilling, and we're bringing a second rig in the back of it.
Right, and let's come back to Nicaragua perception. Yeah. Right, you've explained how you do business in country, but you also explained that people have left country. What does that do in terms of perception in the market, do you think, for you? Do you get a kind of discount on that, or do you think there's an education job to be done, or to get people over the line?
I think it's both. You're absolutely right, there is a discount to it. And for us, there's also credibility, because we bought a company that did nothing for 12 years and couldn't get over the line to start what they kept saying they were going to do. So we've got a credibility issue we've got to get over. I think we're getting over that very quickly. How do we get over the discount? I think your point's absolutely valid. We start selling not just what we're doing there, but the country itself. And we've had this discussion actually only recently, looking how we start educating the market correctly on what's really going on there. So just to give you an example, there's no real drugs in Nicaragua. Why? Because the government doesn't allow it. Whereas, in other countries, because of the way the governments are structured, they can't stop it. It's the safest country in South and Central America.
Really? Why do you say that?
Because it is. You can do the stats. So because there's no drugs, because the people are well looked after, because the government is a regime that keeps control, there's zero doubt they do.
So do you think that people are harking back a little bit too far in terms of regime changes which happened, a lot of oversight, putting it politely, in the past? Is that genuinely a thing of the past?
I do think so. Look, they're building a succession plan for the government to maintain it in the family. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. And that doesn't come across from sometimes an international perspective as...
It doesn't feel like democracy.
It doesn't feel like democracy. But
democracy is a Western construct.
Exactly. It actually works in a lot of these countries because it maintains stability. Yeah. It maintains a vision that someone has to take a country forward. I don't want to go into politics around the world, but take a look at some of the governments that change and look what happens.
You're talking about Canada again? How dare you?
Maybe I'm talking about their southern neighbour, but I don't want to go too far into that.
I might it's difficult everywhere.
I might get black banned. Yeah. That is the point. And to sit there and say, oh, well, they're maintaining a regime. Well, it's stable, the people are happy, they're fed, and they're safe. I don't see too many things wrong with that. And they want and are inviting international companies for foreign direct investment to invest in their mining industry.
So foreign direct investment is a good thing from what you're seeing and hearing.
Absolutely. Well, there's already
Okay.
three other
There's no
international...
protectionism, none of that.
3 other international companies operating there, operating perfectly well, have been doing for 10 years without a problem.
Yeah.
So it's not an issue.
Oh, Mineros are there, aren't they?
You got Mineros,
Yeah.
you got Calibra, which
Yeah.
just got bought out by
They're great.
Equinox,
That's right.
and you've got Mako. So
That's
three
right.
of them.
Forgot about that.
Yeah. So they're all
And they're
operating.
producing there, right?
Absolutely, every
Okay.
one of them. It was Calibra's biggest asset. Well, Equinox, probably not now, but that was a 200,000 ounce a year mine they were doing there.
Yeah.
Our all-in sustaining costs are $1,000 against a $3,500 gold price.
Oh, you're making money.
Oh, you're making money, and the tax regime's stable and straightforward. So
Right.
it's not.
So what I'm hearing from you is obviously a team of mine builders and producers, comfortable in jurisdictions that perhaps other people shy away from. That kind of transfer of, I guess, production to Nicaragua, but don't discount Philippines, continuing to be able to produce and contribute cash flow.
Yeah.
Anti-dilatory in the sense that you got your money to do what you want to do, and therefore you don't kind of need to waste too much money on economic studies, publishing economic studies.
Exactly.
As well.
We'll just
So-
do internal ones.
Sounds good. What's the downside then?
Look, for me, it's execution.
Okay.
We have to have the team that can execute. I know we do, but it's then about building that credibility in the market. If we go back to the Philippines just quickly, the VMS, we know what it is, we know what it looks like. We've got a metallurgical lab in country ourselves to do
Yep.
the metallurgical work. We've got the assay laboratory, we've got all the geologists.
Yeah.
We've got the team that's done all our economic studies already internal.
Yeah.
We'll have an economic study out by the end of the year or Q1 next year on that. We'll know it's economic. We will go straight into procurement. All we're looking at doing is repurposing the existing plant by pulling down the biox tanks and putting in some flotation lines.
Right.
And a concentrate filter, 20 million. So I've got a 20 million plant that'll spin off probably 2 to 3 times the cash it currently is. How's that downside? And it'll take me 6 months to do it. I love the scenario. We have to execute. So our stepping stones in Nicaragua, repurposing the Philippines, and then it's our white whale. Which one do we chase? And we got a number of them. Which tier one
And
asset?
how, and and the order of play, I guess,
Yeah.
because like I say, the JV in the Philippines is not out of the question.
We got that on top
Possibly
of it.
don't need it, but not out of the question. Exciting times. You must be excited, obviously, the continued gold price as it is. The margins are exceptional and long may it last.
Yes.
Like I say, it's simple as execution, sir. Simple.
Thank you, Matt. Cheers. Yeah, great.